Hello everyone and welcome to the first video on the channel. This video is going to be about the Calypso water park in Limoges, Ontario. I'm going to talk about the park's opening, controversy, and some of the unfortunate accidents that took place. The park cost around $65 million in total and is located 35 kilometers east of Ottawa. The park opened its doors to the public on June 7, 2010 and had a pretty successful first year. The park sits on a 100-acre lot and is the biggest water park in Canada. It contains 3 pools, 35 water slides, 2 lazy rivers, and 2 children's areas. The company ADG designed and built their wave pool, which they say is 42,250 square feet, the largest in North America, powered exclusively by ADG's WaveTech wave generation system. The centerpiece at Calypso Water Park is the Summit Tower. It's a 28-meter high, or around 92 feet high, structure that includes a series of fast water slides, some of which are among the tallest ever built. Although the park sounds like a dream come true, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this park almost since its opening. They have been repeatedly accused of not properly training staff, not reporting injuries, and the rides themselves being unsafe. I wanted to read this TripAdvisor review from August 20th, 2010, just months after the opening. The park was good until we went to the wave pool. I was with my 16-year-old daughter and her 16-year-old friend. We weren't even at the deepest part. We were all fairly good swimmers, but the waves are very high, come very fast, and pull you under. My daughter was drowning. I nearly drowned myself just trying to get the lifeguard to shut the waves off. I was waving my arms and yelling help in between waves, and she was just looking at me, probably because I wouldn't stop yelling, seeing as how my daughter hadn't barely got a breath in about 10 waves. She finally pointed to herself in the pool like to say, "Want some help?" She then shut the waves, came in the pool and said, "Oh, I figured she'd be okay. There was just one more wave to go." Oh my god, the lifeguard let my daughter continue drowning since it wouldn't be much longer. I had been screaming for help for at least 10 waves. If they don't have some trained staff in there, someone is gonna die in that pool. I've never had such a scary experience feeling that my daughter might actually die right in front of me. I was near drowning myself, as I had put so much effort into getting the lifeguard's attention that I could barely pay attention to trying to survive the waves. This is a death trap. We'll never go back, and I would seriously warn even very good swimmers to avoid it, especially with your kids, even if they're older or tall. I'm quite tall, and a few more waves would have possibly been the end of the 2 of us. This story and a few similar on TripAdvisor had 90+, some 100+ likes or upvotes on stories warning people to avoid the wave pool and warning of untrained staff. All wave pools are dangerous and drownings can happen, but the question is, was this one more dangerous? A mixture of a larger than average wave pool and undertrained staff is a recipe for disaster. Some people claim that the pool was no worse than any other wave pool and inexperienced swimmers just so happen to have some accidents there, while others claim the waves come fast and seem to drag you under more than normal. Is it possible that the size/shape of the pool plus ADG's WaveTech system created a uniquely dangerous attraction? Diane from Ottawa wrote on a review on June 29, 2010, said it's only a matter of time before somebody drowns in the wave pool. She said she had been to Wild Water Kingdom and other wave pools, and Calypso's was not the same. They need to turn down the waves or prevent people from going too deep in the pool. There is a black line showing the point you can't pass for safety reasons, but Diane says the danger zone is before that black line, not beyond. So it's possible the waves were not to blame, but maybe they were letting people go too deep into the pool. I found another story from August 2010 of a man detailing his trip to Calypso with his wife and 3-year-old son. We'll call him Bill. Bill said in the children's area there was 2 slides being watched by 1 lifeguard, and that 1 lifeguard couldn't watch both slides effectively, which left one of the slides basically unsupervised, and Bill saw kids sliding down and crashing into each other at the bottom. I found another user from 2017 describing the same thing on the same slide, saying kids can't see when the next kid is out of the slide, and the lifeguards only monitor one of the 2 slides. Bill, along with about a dozen other people, made comments on the hygiene of the park, saying the pools had gray buildup around the water line and garbage cans were overflowing. Next, Bill and his son wanted to go down a raft ride. At the top of the slide, they were seated with 2 children and an adult. Either due to weight distribution or an underinflated raft, they almost flipped twice. He said it probably had something to do with the 2 adults on one side and the 3 children on the opposite side, and makes a good point that the slide attendant at the top should have known that wasn't a good idea and got them to move to disperse the weight more equally. The last thing that concerned him was seeing a man being carried out on a stretcher with his kids walking behind him. Bill did mention that there was some good lifeguards and staff doing their best to keep everyone safe. Bill also said he witnessed many kids falling between the pirates' wading pool and the actual ship where the cement crests. His 5-year-old was one of the kids who fell. Not the end of the world, but kids were probably being hurt quite often in the children's area. But a lot of the time, parents probably didn't know if it was the fault of the park or their child just having too much fun. The kids area also had a large bucket that dumps water onto the kids on a pirate ship structure. But the bucket dumped water almost directly onto the stairs, and one man described his son being knocked off his feet and falling down a few stairs. Thankfully, he managed to not hit his head and only had a few scrapes and a bruised knee and elbow. His father stood under the water to see how bad it really was, and he was very surprised with the weight of the water crashing down, saying if a small child was going up the steps, they have no chance and would definitely be hurt. He tried to warn some of the staff that they should warn kids to hang on to the railing if they're on the stairs when the water drops. Susan D., on the 16th of August 2012, said her 11-year-old daughter was walking down those exact steps when the bucket dropped, causing her daughter to be swept off the stairs onto the concrete. Her knee and foot were scraped and hurt quite badly, and she still complained of pain 2 weeks later. The lifeguard only gave her a few band-aids, even though she was bleeding quite bad, so her brother and friend took her to the nurse's station. They put a better bandage on her knee, but did not take her name or make an incident report. I found another user that also said that the Pirates Cove was very slippery, and she witnessed 5 kids falling and hitting the back of their head. Multiple people have tried to sue the park for slip and falls resulting in broken bones, but every case I could find was dismissed. From what I have read, the steamer is one of the most dangerous rides at the park. A man wrote this on the 21st of September 2012. Like other reviewers, I received severe whiplash and injury to my shoulder after being thrown from the 2-man raft upon entering the final tunnel of the steamer. Our raft went up high on one side of the tunnel, which caused us to be thrown from the raft and hit our heads hard on the other side of the tunnel. All the first aid supervisor at Calypso would say was that going to a water park involves some element of risk. They were reluctant to complete an internal incident report, and the first aid supervisor was indifferent to our injuries. In 2011, Sophie, 50 years of age, had never ridden a water slide before and decided on the steamer. She described the ride being fine at first, but after going into what she described as the toilet bowl-like section, she described this. I felt the water rushing in fast. Then there was a big noise. A crazy noise. Then I woke up, and I was in the pool. The raft had flipped, and Sophie and her partner had been thrown off, and she slid into the knee-deep pool at the end of the ride. What probably caused her injury was that her tube entered the last part of the ride backwards. At the same time, a gush of water flipped the tube, and she hit her head severely and suffered a double fracture of her C2 neck bone. She had to wear a halo suit for months before she recovered. It's hard to say if this was truly the fault of the park or just an accident, but at the time that this happened, Calypso was facing 20 charges under Ontario's Technical Standards and Safety Act, which governs amusement parks and water park operations. The charges involved a steamer and several other rides, a number of alleged breaches of training, and on-record keeping violations in the summer of 2011 and 2012. The park pleaded not guilty to all charges, but was fined $400,000 for safety violations. However, in 2012, the park did plead guilty to a chlorine incident, where they were fined $100,000 for discharging excess chlorine, causing adverse effects, and 13 children had to be sent to the hospital. Think Calypso would shut the pool down or fix the underlying issue that caused the mishap? Well, that same day, a power outage caused the wave pool to shut down again, releasing an excess amount of chlorine for the second time, sending 2 more children to the hospital. A power outage isn't really something you can see coming, but if the same thing happened earlier that day, I probably would have just shut the pool down. I found another story from 2013 about a group of 7 people in the wave pool, and 3 of them got sick. They were not 100% sure because they didn't go to the hospital because their symptoms were only mild, but they think it was because of the chlorine. This story we can't really be too sure of though. Although the steamer had a lot more accidents, I think that the bobsleigh might be one of the most dangerous at the park. I'm going to read another story from TripAdvisor. This story was also covered in many news articles, but I thought I'd read this because it was written by somebody who was actually on the ride. Because of the negligence of lifeguarding staff, a serious collision occurred between my family and another family at the Summit Tower on the bobsled ride. We were sent down the slide on a red light by a staff member who allowed us to proceed without being able to visually see the slide and without communicating with the other staff members at the base of the slide. The slide reaches breakneck speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour, and safety should be a top priority for Calypso. It was absolutely terrifying to be tearing down that slide, accelerating rapidly toward another tube that had been stuck in the slide. We slammed into them with such force that everybody was injured. My husband was taken to the hospital in an ambulance and sustained a serious head injury. My neck was injured so severely that I could not function for weeks after the collision, and I'm still seeing several doctors to try and get some relief and mobility back. The gentleman that was in the tube that we struck was actually ejected from the slide completely and thrown over onto the concrete with such force that he has multiple skull fractures, a fractured spine, and is now permanently deaf in his right ear. I wish that I could report that Calypso was cooperative and helpful after the collision occurred. After an apparently unprecedented collision such as this, I had assumed that at the very least, somebody would speak with me about what had occurred, but after trying desperately to speak with someone of authority, I was referred to customer service at the park gate where I could fill out a comment card. So this woman was almost killed, and all they did was give her a comment card to fill out. That's nice. So that's a pretty scary story. Almost 60 kilometers an hour, and they hit a tube that was stuck in the slide in front of them, injuring everyone that was in both tubes. And I found a news article that said that the man that went over the side of the slide onto the pavement was also suffering from ringing in his ears, and his wife and children, then aged 8 and 7, suffered a variety of less serious injuries after being thrown into the wall of the slide. In a 2015 decision that found Calypso guilty of Technical Standards and Safety Act violations, a justice of the peace ruled the crash involving this family was absolutely preventable. Calypso was fined $500,000 for 6 safety violations, including those related to a crash involving the family we just talked about, and also the other rider we talked about from the steamer that broke 2 bones in her neck. One of the worst stories I read was from Francine Sear. Francine was riding the Canyon Raft ride at the Calypso in August 2010 when something went horribly wrong. As detailed by CanWest News, Sear boarded a water ride characterized by round rubber rafts free-floating along a steep, twisting water slide. While there are handles on the rafts for people to hold onto, Sear found them ineffective and she was not able to hang on. According to the text of her amusement park lawsuit, the plaintiff boarded the raft without being given any direction or cautions. While on the ride, the raft began to descend very rapidly and spin out of control. Francine was thrown from her position on the raft and collided with another rider. Both of her hands had been on the proper handles. For Sear, her accident left her face, as she says, seriously disfigured. Sear's statement of claim continues. She has continuous hospital and orthodontic appointments and must take prescription medication. The 48-year-old mom suffered bone fracture to the face, bone fracture to the eye socket, displacement of facial nerve, head, face, and eye injuries, injuries to the teeth and jaw, bruised eyes and cheeks, face swelling and numbness, and depression, according to a report in the Ottawa Citizen. In July of that same year, 2 other men were also sent to the hospital following an incident on the same rafting ride. One of the men suffered a serious skull fracture. Well, that's my look at some of the unfortunate accidents that happened at Calypso Water Park. I would like to note that in recent years, they seem to have gotten their act together because besides all the bad reviews of people complaining of no social distancing while visiting the park during a pandemic, I didn't see anyone complaining of dangerous rides or being seriously injured. Calypso might take the crown of the action park of Canada. A lot of fun, but it didn't end that way for everyone. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if you'd be interested in seeing more, subscribe. I really appreciate it. The channel is called Nothing Specific, so naturally, the videos on this channel will be about different topics. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.